Something really weird is happening in the book industry when it comes to Kindle book prices, and we need to talk about it. Hi guys, my name is Michaela. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where we talk about all things books. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I have never done a video quite like this before. Today we are going to be unpacking Kindle book prices and what is actually going on in the book industry. So I really hope you enjoy it. I really hope you maybe learn something. And of course, I would love to hear your opinions down below in the comments. Thank you so much for taking the time to click on this video. I would love it so much if you could hit the subscribe button, and let's just get straight into it. Let me start by setting the scene for you. I am a Kindle book reader. I know, despite all of these books behind me, the majority of the books that I do read are on my Kindle. And very often when a new release comes out, I will go onto Amazon to download the book to my Kindle and quite often be met with prices exceeding $9.99, sometimes even $12.99 for a Kindle digital book. That seems pretty expensive, right? And then I will look at the physical copy, and more often than not, the physical copy is cheaper for me to buy than a digital file. This isn't an isolated incident. This is a pattern that happens time and time again. And it raises the question, how can a digital file that requires no paper, no printing, no warehouse, no shipping, be more than a physical copy that requires all of those things? How does that make any sense? And there are some pretty interesting reasons why, which we are going to be unpacking in today's video. We are going to dig into why Kindle books are so expensive, what bestseller lists have to do with that, and how it affects readers just like you and me. Let's start by looking at the actual costs versus a physical book versus a Kindle book, what it actually costs to bring a book to the market. When publishers make a physical book, there is a lot of costs that are involved in that. I am talking the paper, the printing, the warehousing, the inventory, a lot of stuff that I probably have no clue about. Publishers need to store thousands and thousands of these books in warehouses, buildings that require rent. From there, the books need to be shipped to the customers, to the bookstores, to the online suppliers. You've got transportation costs, you've got inventory management, all which add up to the final cost of that book. And from there, bookstores will take usually around 40 to 50% of what the book actually costs, the RRP, if you will. That's a lot of money that's going into each physical book. Now, what about a digital book? Once that file is created, it can be distributed infinitely with no processing, no warehousing, no inventory management. If we want to be specific, the only thing that it requires is server space. Every sale from that point is essentially profit. Oh, and let's not talk about the fact that we actually don't own those Kindle books anymore. Thanks to Amazon's recent changes. We're essentially borrowing them, but paying for them. But that's an argument for a different day. So if we're being logical here, based on what I've just told you, digital books should be way cheaper than physical books, right? They cost so much less to make and distribute, but they're not. They're often more expensive. And that tells us something important. There's something going on behind the scenes. We're dealing with a bigger issue than supply and demand. And that's where it gets interesting. To better understand the prices, we need to understand how literary success is measured in the publishing industry. Bestseller lists, if you will. Bestseller lists such as the New York Times bestseller list, the Sunday Times bestseller list, they are often the primary metric that is used to measure how successful a book is. If an author's book makes it onto the New York Times bestseller list, that can be career changing for them. Their publisher from there is automatically going to see that book as a success, which is going to lead to more deals, additional marketing support, and that coveted bestseller badge that you often see on the front covers of books. And I don't know about you, but if you ever see that badge which tells you that a book is a bestseller, you're automatically more likely, potentially, going to be to buy that book as it's got a bestseller badge, right? But here's the catch. These bestseller lists focus on physical book sales, mostly. Digital book sales do not hold as much weight as what a physical book sale does. And we're not talking just Kindle books here. We are talking about digital books in general, whether that's Apple books, Kobo books, or Kindle books. I'm talking as digital book sales as a whole. Even though so many people read books digitally, these sales do not count as much towards the bestseller lists. Make that make sense. The exact formula for how these bestseller lists are curated is kept a secret, and that is due to manipulation and people not being able to fraud the system and getting their book on the bestseller list. So keep that in mind. This creates a bit of a problem, or rather an incentive for publishers. They want their books in their best-selling lists. So what are they going to do? They want to drive you towards physical book sales rather than digital. So what do publishers do? They keep those Kindle prices high to drive you towards going out and buying that physical book so they can make these best-selling lists. How many times can I say best-selling lists in this video? Your guess is good as mine. I do just want to say, I don't think this is some evil scheme. I don't think the publishers are sitting there rubbing their hands thinking, we're just going to punish the digital readers. I think it is publishers responding to how success is measured in their industry. And that tells us that this goes deeper and bigger of a problem than just with publishers themselves. But the result of that is digital readers are being punished. That's a bit dramatic, isn't it? But I feel very strongly about this subject. Publishers are effectively nudging you towards the format of sales that benefits them the most. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is just a rational response to an outdated measuring system that has not yet evolved for modern reading requirements, how modern people are reading now. Other industries figured this out years ago, and I think it's worth taking a look at how other creative industries have adapted to digital distribution and what they did to change. Let's start with the music industry. Back in the day, you had to go out and buy a physical CD. You had to go to the supermarket. You had to go to the music store and buy a physical CD for that sale to count towards the bestseller list, the top 40. But then streaming took over, Spotify, Apple Music, as suddenly people were buying less and less physical CDs. And the music industry responded to that. They were like, okay, this is how people listen to music now. And they recognized that streaming is the most modern way that people are listening to music, and now streaming plays count towards chart positions. They adapted the system, so it can be done. The film industry did something similar. Box office numbers remain important, but the film industry recognised that not as many people go to the cinema anymore, except me. I go all the time. Streaming views, Netflix, Amazon Prime, they all count towards those box office numbers. But the book industry? Still stuck in the past. It's 2025. Most people I know have a Kindle. Whether they read physical books or not, people usually have a Kindle. And I would say the majority of people I know read books on their Kindles probably just as much as they read physical books. I keep on saying Kindles, but when I'm talking about Kindles, I'm talking about e-readers as a whole. Just want to clarify that. But the publishing industry is still measuring success in exactly the same way as they did before e-readers existed. Why? Maybe they're worried about change. Maybe there are reasons behind it that I don't fully understand. But what I do know is that if these systems aren't being updated, readers are the ones that are paying the price for this. Okay, so I feel like we need to talk about bookstores because I am a huge bookstore advocate. Independent bookstores, I absolutely love them, and they should not be punished because e-readers now exist. I want to clarify that. I want to talk about that. Physical bookstores, especially independent ones, are amazing places. You can go and it's not just a bookstore, it's a community space. You can meet fellow book lovers, things that you can't do online. You can speak to a bookseller and get personal book recommendations and not just relying on the algorithm, what the internet is showing you. You can go and judge books by their covers. You can go and smell the books, and there is no better feeling than standing in a bookstore. Bookstores host author events, readings, book clubs. They replicate something that online book shopping will never be able to fill, and protecting that is just as important. Being around people who love books is just the best feeling. Independent bookstores, especially, need our support. They operate on tight budgets. They add community to our areas. I love my local bookstores, and like I said, protecting them is so important. But I also believe that in protecting independent bookstores, we shouldn't be making digital readers pay more money. The current system is basically asking digital book readers to pay more money to support a retail model they're not even using. And when you look at why some people may use digital readers in the first place, that doesn't seem fair. Some people have visual impairments, which mean by reading on a digital reader, they can make the font size a lot bigger. Some people have physical disabilities, which makes holding books extremely difficult. Some people live in small living spaces and don't have the space for all these books. Some people travel a lot and can't fit 20 books in their suitcase, and by having a digital reader, you can take 10,000 books on holiday with you. And of course, some people are trying to be more environmentally conscious. And look, some people just prefer reading digitally, myself included, and that is a valid choice, just as much as reading a physical book is a valid choice, and people shouldn't be penalised by cost for their choice in reading. If somebody wants to support their local bookshop, they should feel like they want to, not that they are being pushed there because digital book prices have priced them out so high that that's where they have to go to buy their book. We need to think of better ways that we can support our bookstores, whether that's more paid events, whether that's subscription systems. Maybe bookstores could even sell digital books and keep a copy of it. There are ways that we can get around this. We just need to think more creatively instead of accepting the system that is currently in place. We can love bookstores and think digital books are fairly priced. These two things are not opposites. A healthy book ecosystem should work for everyone. That's the physical bookstores, the authors, the readers, the publishers. What we're currently doing is propping one up by overcharging on the other part, and that is just not sustainable long term. The current digital book pricing system has created some interesting habits in how readers are actually buying their books. Because we've got to the point where $9.99 or even £12 is the normal for a Kindle book, when they then go on offer for 99p or $1.99, we go feral for them. And what do? We download it immediately, and then we buy 3 more, we buy 10 more, because that's such an incredible deal, right? Before you know it, we've got hundreds of books sitting on our Kindle, which we will probably never be able to read all of them, but they were good deals. So it was a bargain, right? It's like when you see that dress in the shop that's got 70% off. Do you need that dress? No, you don't. But you're gonna buy it anyway because it's a bargain. And I think publishers know this. And by doing this, they are essentially charging us what that book should probably cost all along. But we feel like we've got such a good deal. Having access to thousands of books changes the way we read. If I had paid £10 for a Kindle book, I'm probably more likely to finish it. Whereas if it was on Kindle Unlimited, if I'd only paid 99p for it, I'd probably be more likely to DNF it. And that is not a bad thing. We should not be pushing ourselves through bad books just because of how much they cost. I'm just talking about some reading patterns here. It's almost a bit like fast fashion for books. We're accumulating these books faster than we can read them for them to sit on our Kindles forever. We've got this strange relationship with books, whether they're dirt cheap or extremely overpriced, and there doesn't seem to be any in between. We need to actually think about who would be affected by this change as well, because authors earn different royalties based on whether it's a book sale versus a Kindle book sale. And what we also need to protect is authors. They can't be hurt by digital book sales. If the system was to change, I really don't think it's going to. This is my wishful thinking. We need to make sure that authors are protected, as it's their hard work that we are reading. So what is the solution to this, I hear you ask? The industry metrics need to change. We need to change how we recognise bestseller lists. We need to recognise that more and more people read digital books every single day. If digital book sales counted equally, publishers wouldn't need to keep those Kindle prices so high. We wouldn't be penalised for choosing one book format over another. And we could find better ways to support our bookstores that doesn't involve overcharging digital readers. Now listen, this is not a simple solution. There's a lot of moving parts to this, and I am fully aware of that. But the first step to this is actually understanding what is happening and why. Right now, the publishing industry is still stuck in the past, while the readers have moved on. The question is, will the publishing industry catch up, or will the readers keep paying more because they won't? Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I would love to hear your opinion on this matter, whether you agree with me or not. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time.